Let's get reaction now to our breaking news story where the International Criminal Court has just moments ago issued arrest warrants for Israeli leaders Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant for alleged war crimes. An arrest warrant has also been issued for Hamas leader Mohammed Diab Ibrahim Al-Masri, also known as Mohammed Deif. Our international news editor Sophie Mokoena joins me now in studio. Sophie, very good afternoon to you. Of course, this is a massive case, a big case. In fact, a lot of people had been waiting for this moment, I would imagine. But just talk to us about what exactly are the charges that these three gentlemen are facing and the significance of these arrest warrants.
These charges relate to the war crimes committed by Israel and Hamas in the Middle East, in Gaza. You know that there has been investigations for quite a long time in terms of what has happened in Gaza. And also you'd recall that the South African government last year, this time around, in fact in December, the minister then, Dr. Naledi Pandor, did make an announcement that South Africa has requested the International Criminal Court to intervene before they even went to the International Court of Justice. And therefore now we are seeing that process taking shape. You would recall that the chief prosecutor of the ICC had requested the trial chamber to make a ruling whether that can be done or those warrants can be issued to the people mentioned. And now the court has come back and saying, yes, that must happen. And therefore, we expect those warrants to be issued against Benjamin Netanyahu, the former defense minister, and Hamas leader. But we are told that, you'd recall, Israel did announce that they killed him. And therefore, now it's only these two, for now, who will be receiving those arrest warrants. But then we don't know when will Israel respond. But as I pointed out, I think for South Africa in particular, the country that has been very firm and vocal in terms of using the global institutions under the United Nations and any other multilateral institutions that are meant to maintain peace in the world. This is a big step for the country, and I expect that perhaps today we'll see a statement from the presidency or the Department of Justice or the Department of International Relations to the recent developments. I think it's Wednesday, possibly there's a cabinet meeting or a cabinet committee meetings, and after then the government of South Africa will be able to issue a statement. But I think South Africa will be happy in a sense that now a process of accountability is underway, because as I pointed out, let us not forget, I remember very well South Africa going to the International Criminal Court. And you'd recall the president was somewhere in the Middle East making that announcement. And we later, 2 days after, I spoke to the Minister of International Relations at that time, Dr. Naledi Pandor, on the margins of the UNISA's event where he was with the former President Thabo Mbeki. And when I doorstopped the minister, he indicated that this is what they have done. And then in January, they then went to the ICC. So the International Criminal Court was the first stop for South Africa to try and get accountability in relation to what's happening in the Middle East.
Now, we know, of course, that Israel is not a member, in fact, of the ICC, but also close allies, the U.S. One wonders then what the reaction from the U.S. will be, particularly the Biden administration. What are you hearing on that front?
According to the ICC, perhaps protocols, if you commit a crime where ICC, or in a country where ICC has powers, and that country is a member of the ICC, whether you are a member or you are not a member, ICC can take steps. And therefore, yes, Israel might not be, but Palestine. Now, Israel is arguing that Palestine is not a state. according to them. They don't recognize Palestine. But we know that the UN does recognize Palestine and many other countries. So it is going to be a legal battle whether Palestine does fall under those rules in terms of being categorized as a state. So that's the argument that's going to be used by Israel. The second issue, the ally of Israel, the United States of America, is not a member of the ICC. You'd recall that it was during Trump's tenure where he even threatened to arrest the then chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, and also issuing the ban on all investigators of the International Criminal Court. You'd recall we once spoke to one of the investigators, or perhaps one of the prosecutors of the International Criminal Court, who has since retired in Lesotho, talking about how difficult it was when America took that decision. So we expect the United States of America to respond, and we know that Biden had earlier indicated that he doesn't agree with the International Criminal Court taking this step. So we expect the Biden administration to issue a statement. It's still early in the United States of America, but at 1600 our time in South Africa, Sherwin Bryce-Pease in New York will bring us the reaction from the United Nations and also from around the world. But this is a massive, massive story and a huge step in relation to what's happening in the Middle East.
Absolutely. I mean, these findings by the ICC chamber, Sophie, goes, in fact, to the heart of Israel's defense, not just in this case involving the ICC, but also in the ICJ genocide case, too. I just want to read what the chamber also said. The chamber also noted that decisions allowing or increasing humanitarian assistance into Gaza were often conditional. They were not made to fulfill Israel's obligations under international humanitarian law or to ensure that the civilian population in Gaza would be adequately supplied with goods in need. I mean, it goes on and it goes on. What does this then significantly, I know you touched a little bit about South Africa's stance, do to this case, particularly the genocide case?
You know that South Africa has now filed its papers in terms of presenting evidence that speaks to its argument that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And now we are waiting for Israel to present its reply or the documents in relation to South Africa's documents. And they have enough time. I think we will only see that case starting late next year. And therefore, we will then have a sense of the kind of evidence South Africa has to prove its case that indeed Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. But I know that many neighboring countries in the Middle East, neighboring countries with Palestine, have also given South Africa documents to prove in terms of their observation. They have also gotten lots of information, videos, statements on the ground in Gaza, in Palestine, including Israel, from people who are sympathetic to the Palestinians in Gaza to prove a point that Israel is committing a genocide. But at the end of the day, the International Court of Justice will then make a ruling whether what South Africa has presented does indicate Israel committing genocide in Gaza. You know that the previous cases that we saw, it was just interim measures to stop the killings, but the killings didn't stop. Even last night, Israel launched massive attacks in the Middle East, including Lebanon, and therefore perhaps Israel knew what was coming. You know that the Minister of Defense is not there in office anymore. Perhaps at that time, and I predicted at that time that something was happening. Now they have to go and account the two, because in relation to Hamas, now that Hamas leader is not there anymore because he was killed during some of these raids. And therefore, now you have Benjamin Netanyahu, who cannot travel to any country that is signatory to the ICC. And we saw 2 days ago Turkey refusing his flight or using the airspace in Turkey. So you are going to see more of this. Now, similarly to what's happening to the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, who can't travel now, the same is happening to Benjamin Netanyahu. He can't go anywhere where this country or a particular country is a signatory to the Rome Statute.
Absolutely, Sophie. And of course, we will continue to get reaction a little bit later on, as you rightfully indicated. But one thing is for certain, this is one of those big stories that we are going to be tracking for some time, I do imagine, until we see some reaction, at least from the West and, in fact, Israel too. Sophie Mokoena is the international news editor here at the SABC for us.